All right, good afternoon, my friends. Now 3 o'clock, Super Bowl 58, Sunday at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, 49ers and Chiefs. Kansas City tight end Travis Kelce says he has to bring home the hardware like Taylor Swift did at the Grammys. Right now, San Francisco is favored by 2. Joe DeLeon, a college football and NFL insider, going to join me coming up at 5:20 to talk ball, and we'll also focus in on the draft. Trailblazers will be in action Thursday. The Detroit Pistons are in town. That tip-off is at 7. Game day will start at 4:30 here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. NBA trade deadline is coming up on Thursday at noon. Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian will stop by at 3:20 today to get the latest on what the Trailblazers are going to do. And also Brooke Olzendam. Brooke Hearts Your Heart, year number 5. She'll stop by at 4. All right, Rip City Drive. What's going on, my friends? I'm starting to feel the buzz with the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. 49ers and Chiefs. That kickoff from Allegiant Stadium down in Las Vegas will be at 3:30. All right, big show today. We'll talk Super Bowl, of course. But the NBA trade deadline is coming up on Thursday at noon. My good friend Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian is going to join me in 18 minutes. He's a big Chicago Bear fan, so I want to know what the Bears are going to do at number 1. Will they draft Caleb Williams or Drake May, or will they trade the pick and try to get a ton of assets in return and stick with Justin Fields? I want to get his Super Bowl prediction. Who does he got, Chiefs or 49ers? And then most importantly, we'll focus in on the trade deadline and get an idea of what he thinks the Portland Trailblazers may or may not do before Thursday at noon. Is Malcolm Brogdon going to stay? Are they going to stand pat and wait till the summertime? We'll get his take on DeAndre Ayton, the progression of Scoot Henderson over the last couple of weeks, the whole deal. So Aaron Fentress will join us in 17 minutes at 3:20. And then at 4 o'clock, it's exciting. She hasn't been on the show in a while, but Brooke Olzendam, your Trailblazer sideline reporter, is going to join us at 4 o'clock, and we'll talk about year number 5 now of Brooke Hearts Your Heart, which she's got a tremendous story. It's actually a heartbreaking story, but she's using that for power to help people right now, to bring awareness to your heart health and to benefit the American Heart Association and help people in Southwest Washington and Oregon. So Brooke Olzendam will join us at 4. I also want to get her take on what it's like in this new era of Trailblazer basketball. You know, what's it been like for her to watch the growth of the young players? Jabari Walker, Scoot Henderson, Shaden Sharp, and Tamani Kamara. So Brooke Olzendam will join us at 4. And then at 5:20, one of my favorites, who you've heard before, Joel DeLeon, who's with the Believe Podcast Network, but he's a NFL draft expert, NFL insider. He knows the game so well. And we'll break down the Super Bowl. We'll get his prediction. Also coming off the Senior Bowl, I want to get his take on the quarterbacks. What does he think about Bo Nix? Would the Denver Broncos consider drafting a guy like Bo Nix at number 12 with so few draft picks? So Joe DeLeon at 5:20. If you want to jump on board, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And you can also find me on X at Chad in Rip City. Dwight's out until Friday. He is on vacation. So it's me, it's you for the next 3 hours. Now, the other big event that we have coming up this week, aside from the big game on Sunday, Friday, and we're just a few days away now, the Rip City Drive live from Jackson's Food Mart at the corner of I-5 and 217 off Bangor Road. Chilling for a cause. We are going to be broadcasting live from their beer cooler, which is set at a frosty 37 degrees for 3 hours, 3 to 6. I want you to stop by so you can say hi. I've heard from a few of you that will be there. You can enter to win Trailblazer tickets. But most importantly, I want you to go to the auction page and bid on the items that we have up for bid right now. Go to the auction page. Go to ripcityradio.com. It's very simple. I'll walk through the process with you right now. Because you know how websites are. It can be a little cumbersome in trying to find the right link. If you go to ripcityradio.com right now and you click on the 3-bar little button in the top left-hand corner, it'll bring up a menu. Go down to Contest and Promotions and hit that, and then click on Rip City Radio Chillin' for a Cause. That will take you to our homepage for Chillin' for a Cause, and then right there in the story, you'll find the link. Check out our auction items that are up for grabs. And when you click on that, it will take you to our auction page. And I encourage you to bid on items because we have some great items that are available right now. But most importantly, it's going to give you an opportunity to benefit ALS Northwest. We're doing this for ALS Northwest to bring awareness and raise funds for ALS Northwest because it's a hideous disease. There are many people in our community who are suffering with ALS, and they need our help. And so we're going to be there to help. We have autographed Trailblazer team basketballs that are up for grabs right now. We have an autographed Scoot Henderson authentic jersey, which you can bid on. You can also bid on a round of golf with me and Dwight out at Forest Hills Golf Course. We have autographed Trailblazer pennants. You can bid on the Coors Light Silver Seats and have the Coors Light Silver Seats for an entire Trailblazer game. You can be a Trailblazer reporter for a day and join me at Press Row and take part in the post-game press conference. One of my favorites, bid to co-host the Rip City Drive, meaning you get 3 hours to program the show. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about, your business, sports. You could bash on me and Dwight for 3 hours if you want. I don't care. I just want you to bid and help benefit ALS Northwest. We have the Scoot Henderson jersey, and we also have a VIP night for Fort RVN Style Resorts Amphitheater, where you pick the concert, you get in the suite area, and you've got a server to take care of all of your needs throughout the evening. So go right now to our auction page, ripcityradio.com. Go to our promotions. You'll see Chillin' for a Cause. Click on that. You'll find the link for the auction items, and you can do that. All right? So Chillin' for a Cause this Friday. It's the Jacksons right off the freeway, I-5 and 217 on Bangor Road. You can see the station from the freeway. And we're going to be stuck in the cooler for 3 hours broadcasting. I talked to Softy yesterday. He said, it's even worse than you think. Using the computer is basically worthless. Trying to navigate your phone with your gloves on is worthless. And after about 15 to 20 minutes inside the cooler, you're going to be freezing your booty off. Make sure during commercial breaks you step outside of the cooler. That was the advice he gave. And bundle up. Beanie, gloves, layers, the whole deal. So we'll be there on Friday. I hope to see you. I'm looking forward to the event. And a big props to Coors Light, to the Portland Trailblazers for being tremendous and giving us items that we can auction off, the whole deal. All right, Super Bowl 58, Chiefs and 49ers. The one thing that's ridiculous, I love how all football teams, no matter how great they are, they always want to take on this us against the world mentality. Like somehow they're the underdog, that they're the Rocky Balboa story. But the 49ers taking on this whole mantra is weird to me because after the game that we're going to see on Sunday, the 49ers literally will have been favored in every single football game they would have played this season. And that's the first time that's happened in years. If you've been favored to win by Vegas in every single game you play, can you really be an underdog? Or as they're saying right now, against all odds? There's only one reason why you'd want to take on the against all odds mantra, so that hopefully you can play proper music in the locker room before the game. Maybe John Lynch, their general manager, or Kyle Shanahan, maybe one of them is a big fan of Phil, and they're just looking for a way to fit more Phil into their Sunday. If that's the plan, I'm all behind it. But for the 49ers to take on this underdog mentality is laughable. They're favored. I don't know why they're favored in this game. I can't figure that one out. But from day one, we've all agreed that they probably have the best roster in the NFL, loaded up on defense, incredible playmakers on offense, and a genius head coach, and a great organization, and a terrific general manager in John Lynch. This franchise literally has everything you need to win a championship. Well, they might not have the right quarterback to win a championship, but he got him there. He may not be the right guy to get over on Patrick Mahomes, but he got him there. What more do they need? Offensive line, it's pretty good. Playmakers, best running back in the NFL, one of the best utility players on the planet in Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, who's one of the best young receivers in the game, and George Kittle, who's one of the best tight ends in the game. Great left tackle, and the defense is loaded up. Defensive line loaded with big names. They've underperformed of late, but they've got big names and probably the best linebacker core in the NFL. The only real weakness on that team is that their secondary is a little hit and miss. But outside of that, they got everything. And Kyle Shanahan's the best play designer and schemer in football. But we're underdogs. Yeah, I don't think so. And Vegas doesn't buy it. And Vegas knows everything about everything. So I'm excited for the game. As I told you yesterday, I'm twisted up because I look at things very simply now. I used to get paralyzed by overanalysis, but I've learned to kind of reduce it to something simple. Who's got the best quarterback? Who's got the best coach? And who's got the best defense? I've seen enough of these Super Bowls over the years, and I just got done with that marathon they had on NFL Network over the weekend. It's one of the greatest things they do every year. They rolled out the NFL Films Super Bowl highlights 1 through 57. And I got stuck in like a YouTube mode on NFL Network for like 4 straight hours, and I couldn't get enough. The music, the narration, the highlights, the whole shebang. It's beautiful. But the one common theme that you take away from those Super Bowl highlight packages, in most cases, on the championship level in that game, the Super Bowl, the biggest game of the year, the most watched game of the year, the ultimate prize to win a world championship as a football team, the common theme that I take away is the teams that are sturdier and stronger at the line of scrimmage, the teams that play the best defense, the teams that run the football, those are the ones that usually walk away with the Vince Lombardi trophy, period. You can walk in with a great offense. You can walk in with the greatest show on turf, but usually the team with the best defense and the team that's strong at the line of scrimmage is going to get the job done. That's it. That's my big takeaway from championship football. It's not about the flash. It's about who's got the hogs up front, who can dominate the line of scrimmage, who plays the best defense. That's what it comes down to. And like I said, the Chiefs have the best quarterback easily in Mahomes. He's the best in the game. They've got the best coach in Andy Reid, although the separation between he and Shanahan is not much. But Reid's got the championships. He's proven he can win this game. And the defense, the Chiefs' defense is better. So I look at that, and then I look at the line. I'm like, wait, why is this team favored? And then it twists me up on the inside because I feel like Las Vegas is trying to lure you in on the Chiefs only for the game to go the opposite direction and then get punked. So I don't know. That's where I stand on that. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Coming up next, Aaron Fentress, Oregonian. Get his take on what the Bears will do at number 1. He's a huge Chicago fan. We'll get his prediction on the big game on Sunday, and then we'll focus in on Thursday with the NBA trade deadline at noon. What are the Trailblazers thinking? Are they going to make a move? And if so, who will it be? That's up next on the Rip City Drive. I really do enjoy the opportunities that I get to talk with our next guest. He is the Trailblazer reporter for the Oregonian. You can see him on X at Aaron J. Fentress, and he's back on the show. Aaron, my man, what's up, brother?
How are you?
Dude, it's so good to hear your voice. I got a lot of different good things to talk about with you. So before we get to trade deadline day, I know you're a big Chicago Bear fan. I'm jealous because you guys are in a pretty spot with 2 first-round picks, and you've got the number 1 pick. What do you want them to do? Draft Caleb Williams, take Drake May, or do you want them to trade back, stick with Justin Fields, and get a haul in return for that pick?
Oh, my, that's a lot to consider, isn't it? So first things first, a few years ago, I checked out somewhat emotionally from the Bears because I've been a fan of theirs since I was a little child, and quarterback has always been an issue my entire life.
Yes.
And I just determined after Trubisky that until they fixed quarterback, I was not going to invest emotionally. I still watch them, but, like, I'll watch them and they'll lose, and I don't get mad. I'm not breaking anything. Whereas in the past, something's getting broken, right? Yeah, something's got to go. Like, all the dishes and stuff, and looking around, going, who's going to be next? But I just don't do that anymore because it's so frustrating. But here's the problem. History tells me that whatever they do is going to be wrong. If they trade Fields and keep trade Fields and take the pick, take Williams. Williams is going to be average to bad, and Fields will be a Hall of Famer. If they do the reverse, same type of thing. So it almost doesn't matter at this point. That being said, personally, I like Fields. Like, I still think he has potential. He's getting better. They finally had a decent team around him last year. People bring on his first year. The first year was a tank year. I try to trade back, man. I trade back. I get multiple picks. I get Marvin Harrison, right? And I put Harrison out there with Moore and Kmet, and I let him take another leap forward. And I roll. That's what I do personally, because Caleb could be great, or it could be, just good. And I feel they already got good. So that's what I would do. But it doesn't matter because it's the Bears, and something bad's going to happen.
I respect that answer, and that is spoken like a true fan, man. That is epic. It's Aaron Fentress from the Oregonian here on the Rip City Drive. All right, the Super Bowl matchup, Chiefs and 49ers. I'm a little twisted up on the line, like the 49ers being favored. It's a little bit weird to me. But when you look at this matchup, how do you see the game going? Who's going to come out on top?
Ooh, man. Well, it's hard for me to take – Brock Purdy is obviously a great story, but it's just hard for me to go against Mahomes. That guy – he's turning into that dude, right, who just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive, and it's not always him. Obviously, the defense was killer last week against the Ravens. But he just makes plays, and it's just so he doesn't really hurt his team that much. And Purdy's been nice, but, man, if I just have to pick a team in a game like this, I'm going to roll with, the guaranteed future Hall of Famer versus the, solid up-and-comer. Then again, Eli Manning beat Tom Brady twice. So who really knows what's going to – and heck, for that matter, Tom Brady in his first Super Bowl, upset Kurt Warner. And Kurt Warner was the man orchestrating the greatest offense ever at the time. But, yeah, for me, I love the way the Chiefs defense has been playing, and then I just feel like when it comes down to it, when the game's on the line, almost like when they met 2 years ago, Garoppolo couldn't make the play, and Mahomes did. So that's where I'm rolling. I'm going with the guy who's been there, done that.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Aaron, we all have people that we stand by no matter what. Like, I know you're a huge Michael Jackson fan and appreciate the work and music he did. He had a tremendous career, one of the all-time greats. I'm close to John Elway. He was my guy growing up, but I walked away, and I was explaining this yesterday. The first time I saw Mahomes live, I walked out of that stadium, and I said, he's John Elway. Like, he is that guy, and now I would say that he's even better. Like, he's so tremendous. And what I think is great about his game this year, and you'll understand this because you play some golf, I think like a real great player, he looks around and says, okay, I don't have the same offense I had in the past. So like a golfer that's playing like Eastmoreland, he's put the driver down, and he's going with the 3-wood or the driving iron to play it safe and not make the big mistake because he knows that, hey, our defense can get the job done, and it takes a real smart quarterback to understand what he's got around him and just let the game come. And I love that, man. I respect it.
Okay, first of all, you lost me with the golf analogy because no matter what the situation, I always think I can make the Tiger Woods shot, even though I have a 1 in 100 chance of doing it. And when I do it that one time in 100, I'm like, oh, yeah, Tiger Woods, baby. And then, of course, that means I'm going to mess up the next 99 times and cost me 100 strokes. Anyway, but I think I know where you were getting at. Hey, you know what's funny about Mahomes and Elway, though? Mahomes kind of walks a little bit like Elway.
Yeah, he's got that John Wayne Duke style where it's because
Yeah, that
Elway was
knock-knees kind of thing.
pigeon-toed and he always walked weird, but Mahomes has got the same type of waggle. I like it. I see so
Yeah,
much of
yeah.
those two. Like, I don't know what you think about a comp. Mahomes and Elway remind me of each other because of the great athleticism, the scrambling ability, but also the ridiculous arm strength.
Right. No, I think it's a great comp. I mean, people who aren't old heads like us will look at the stats and think, yeah, but Elway played in a different era. If you put Elway in today's types of spreads, I mean, they had that one year they kind of spread it, but even then they ran a lot too. But different type of offenses produce different type of stats. But yeah, no, that's the perfect comp. There's no doubt about that. What was your question?
Yeah, no, Mahomes is great.
Making plays.
He's great,
him
man.
adjusting. Yeah, no, he is okay. So he had that 1 year he threw about 50 TDs. He was MVP and 5,000 yards. And you look at this year, 27 touchdowns, I think only 14 interceptions. So obviously statistically not the same. And of course, that's part of that is not having, the weapons out there that he's had in the past, specifically Hill. But Andy Reid's so smart that he's going to adjust things. He's not going to have him out there slinging it like he was before. And so what it comes down to is he just has to be smarter because he can't go out there and drop 50 touchdowns. He's got to be a smarter player and come up in the clutch. And obviously they use Kelsey a lot. And that shows a lot for him because the great quarterbacks, if you look at like Brady was a game manager. Then he was throwing it all over the place. Then he came back a little bit more to, a normal production for a good quarterback. And Mahomes looks like a guy he can win any way you ask him to win.
It's Aaron Fentress here on the Rip City Drive. I got some Trailblazer questions for you. What do you make of Scoot's recent uptick in production, really ever since that 4-game road trip began?
Yeah, for everyone listening, on Oregon Live, I've been doing this thing called Scoot Check. So, like every batch of games, I check in with him. I just posted Scoot Check 6.0 today. And so I look at how he's done through that stretch compared to the other stretches. And so this last stretch was very interesting because he, clearly he's been a backup, and I think that suits him perfectly. But he really, at the end there, had some stretches where you just saw some of his potential flash, even in situations where he also struggled, like the Philly game. He didn't do anything really until the game was out of reach, and he drops 20. So what does that mean? Is it more garbage time stats, or is it impressive? For me, it was kind of garbage time stats. But then he comes out against Milwaukee in a very emotional showdown with Damian and just killed it in the first half with 15. And then in the second half, he kind of disappeared. But I just wondered what he was going to do in Denver, and that was his best 2-game stretch, I believe, although he was 3 for 16 in the final game. He had 9 assists, 8 rebounds, or maybe vice versa. But, Billups said it perfectly. He's like, he didn't shoot well, but he did everything else. He played solid defense. He kept everyone involved. And then, of course, his most efficient game of the season came in the first night when he had 30 points on 15 shots and was just attacking the rim. He made 38 straight field goals over the last, free throws, which was leading the NBA in that stretch. And he was shooting really well until that last night. So, again, it's up and down. It's inconsistent. But, man, when he is fired up and on, he can be pretty scary. And so if you take away that last game, I know stats don't work this way, but I'm going to do it anyway. Then the stretch of games, which I think spanned 8 in the last Scoot Check I did, he shot 46% from the field and 40% on threes.
Awesome.
That's by far his best shooting. And his defensive rating came down. His offensive rating went up. So that was probably the most productive session stretch of games, and it was 9 this time that he's had this season.
Yeah, it's great. I actually applaud the team, Coach Billups and the Brain Trust for, deciding to bring him off the bench. At first, when the season began, I'm like, you got to play him and start him and just let him go out there and struggle and work through that. But now that I see him in this role off the bench, I think it suits him well. And I think the team is playing better with the continuity we've seen to a degree with knowing that they're going to have Ayton, Jabari, and Grant in the front court with Ant and Brogdon or Ant and Shaden in the backcourt, and then Tamani and Scoot know they're coming off the bench. And I like it. I think the role suits him well, and he's making progress in that role.
Exactly. The idea that people have to start to develop has never made any sense to me. You develop best when you know what you're doing. And he just wasn't ready. There was just no rhyme or reason for him to start other than I felt like they had to because they called him transcendent and generational, and they basically alienated Dame by taking him. And then, you don't start him. So you start him, and then he gets hurt, which was almost a blessing in disguise, right? Because then he comes back and you claim he's on a minutes restriction, even though you know he shouldn't be starting.
Yeah.
Then he gets a few starts because of injuries. And then at the Nets when they won that game, Scoot did not play the fourth quarter or overtime. And Shaden was just working his way back, and Ant had been sick, right? And so then I asked Chauncey in Brooklyn any thoughts of going back to Ant and Shaden. He said, no, we're going to stick with this.
Yeah.
Then they go and just get slaughtered by the Knicks, and Scoot obviously didn't have a good game. No one did, though, right? So I asked again, and that's when he said, yeah, we're going to look at some things, we'll sort of see. And then they went ahead and kept it the way it was for OKC and the T-Wolves and just got obliterated, and then came back and made the switch. But the bottom line is when they're at full strength, your best team is not having all those rookies out there. So during that stretch when they lost 6 games on the road by an average of 33 a night, you were starting Scoot, Kamara, and Reese. I don't care who you are. There's no reason. You got a second-round pick. You got a 26, 27-year-old rookie, and you got a 19-year-old. You're going to get blown out by good teams. You just are. So when he switched up, got Brogdon in there, and then got Kamara out, put Grant at the 3, and got Walker in there. Now, Walker's young, but what does Walker give you? Size, rebounding, and tenacity. That's by far their best lineup, and that's why they're playing better, because you're starting a more adult, physical group and then having the youngsters come off the bench, which is what they should be doing.
Well, I appreciate you asking those 2 questions because I played both of those on my pregame show, and I was happy when you asked the follow-up question after the next game, and he changed his answer. I thought that was great. It's Aaron Fentress from the Oregonian here on the Rip City Drive. How are you evaluating Chauncey Billups and the team this year in year 1 of a full rebuild?
Oh, man, I've been extremely nice. I mean, it's really one of those years where, you just have to take everything with a grain of salt. You have to be honest. Like I just said about the rookies. That's funny. So they go to Dallas and they get blasted, right? Then the next night, Luka's not playing. And I kind of look to Casey Holdahl. I go, you know what? I think the Blazers might win tonight. He goes, really? I go, yeah. In the third quarter, when they're down by like 30, I go, and you thought they would win. And Casey looked at me like I was serious for a second. I go, I'm joking. Of course, I never said that. But that's just sort of my, I was kind of like trying to I think I was hoping for myself because I didn't want to cover another blowout. The thing is, I'm just looking at the team in terms of like this being the startup of a new company where you're going to have some issues. You got to figure out your marketing strategies. You got to figure out your finances, and you're going to have some missteps, and you're just not going to freak out. You're just going to adjust. And that's what this season is about. There are some people who came into the season who were believing that Scoot was going to come right in and dominate and be great, and Shaden was going to do this and that and that and this and that. And, it was just delusion. It just was. If you came in that way, then you're disappointed. You're pissed. If you come in with any kind of understanding of the history of the NBA, you know that the makeup of this roster is not a winning roster. So all you want to really see is, are the young guys growing and developing, and then how everything kind of fits to kind of lead to what moves Cronin might make. And I think progressing. I think Sharp showed that he definitely took a leap before the injury. You got a gem in Kamara, who at the very least is going to be a really good rotation player. Walker's taken another step. Reese, I mean, if Reese is your backup center moving forward as a pick and pop guy, that's a pretty nice weapon to have.
No question.
And then you still have Chris Murray, who made his first start the other day. So it's going to end up being a top 5 or 6 pick. But at least I think as of right now, I think there's enough positives that you should feel pretty good about where things are. With the roster, even though it's not anywhere near, they're going to have to make a lot of moves. Like my over/under on the amount of players on the team right now in the rotation that will still be playing for this team when they make the playoffs is 4.5. That's sort of my betting line. But at least there's pieces that either they're going to develop or they're going to be valued by someone else, and you include them in trades. I just feel like it's been positive so far. The only question mark, the only thing, Aiden's got to hit, man. If DeAndre Ayton does not take a step, and you basically have to move him or not re-sign him in a couple years, how are you going to find another big in the NBA with that much talent? Like, that's hard to pull off. And so if he hits, though, if he develops and, takes a big leap and becomes a reliable, 23-11 guy moving forward, that's huge. If he doesn't, how do you find a replacement? I don't know.
Boy, I hope the last 7 games for Ayton is a foreshadow of what's to come. I agree with your assessment.
Yeah.
Fans don't want to hear that because they want to point the finger at Billups, but I agree with your assessment. I think that's a very logical approach. I think it's great. I like where you're at.
Here's the thing. I've been meaning to do the story, and I haven't done it yet. But I'm going to go back if the last 2.5 years, so if you look at when the roster was reasonably healthy, I believe, not counting this year, because this year no chance. I believe he's over 500, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. He's close to it. But you're talking about his first year. Dame has abdominal surgery, and CJ has a collapsed lung. You're going to blame him for anything that happened? To me, look at what happened when Ant and Nurk were the 1-2 on the team for that 2 months. When those two played together before they tanked, they were 12-12. So the fact that he was 500 with those two as your best two players, with CJ, he came back for a few games, but with Dame out, that to me was pretty impressive. Impressive to the point where they won 4 in a row before the All-Star break, and then all of a sudden everyone started magically having injuries. Remember that? Because they were doing too well. So then you come into that last year, and they were over 500, and then Nurk got hurt, and Winslow got hurt, their defense fell to pieces, and Ant got hurt, and Grant got hurt, and then they pulled the plug. So the only thing I can say right now is that if you give Chauncey Billups a roster that's too young and too small and too injured, he ain't a great coach. But who is?
No one.
Because well, dude, Popovich, and the people say, you can't compare the two. Well, I'm comparing one of the greatest coaches of all time.
He's been awful lately. Awful.
Dude, they're working on their 5th straight losing season. Is it because Popovich suddenly can't coach, or is it because he coached a bunch of kids and during rebuild and they just basically dealt? DeJounte Murray was one of the best players they get. So you got to have talent, you got to have veterans, and he hasn't had that consistently. When he has, he's actually done pretty well.
I agree. Final question for you, Aaron. I appreciate your time. Deadline's on Thursday at noon. Do you expect them to make a move, or do you think they'll stand pat? I was convinced before the season began that Brogdon would be moved before the deadline, but the recent chatter that I've heard is that they may not do anything. So where are you at on the deadline?
Man, I thought for sure that Brogdon would be out. I've had a couple conversations, and what I've been told is just that, they don't know. Like they're not sure. They're not wedded to just moving him to move him. Like it has to be, as one source told me, they want to get someone who can play. Here's the ideal world. You flip Brogdon into a forward of his caliber, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not quite 31, but a forward who can play at his level, and then that balances out your roster better, right? But is that out there? I don't know. Do you do it for a pick in this draft, which everyone's calling one of the worst in a long time? Does that make sense? Because, are you going to get a good player with that pick? And if he's cool with staying, if he's not barking, get me out of here, which is what I heard kind of at the beginning of the season, that he wasn't really happy about backing up Scoot Henry. So going from 6th man of the year, playing with a contender, to backing up a 19-year-old. But if he's cool with staying here into the summer or whatever, then maybe you just sort of wait and see if you can get a better deal done in the summer. But to me, if they can acquire players that help balance this roster and players that they'll want to keep, not just rent a player, then I could see them making a move. And man, I mean, you're right. The chatter out there right now is that they very easily won't do anything at all. This is what I think. I think at the very least there's going to be something small.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what, but I can't believe they're just going to do nothing. But definitely probably not the frenzy we thought there might have been.
Well, I guess that's the advantage that Cronin's in right now. He's under no pressure to make a move today, right? Because they've got cap flexibility. They've got a lot of draft picks coming up in the near future, and they've got a ton of veterans that can eventually be moved out to bring in those young players or draft picks that you were talking about. So I think Cronin's in a good spot right now. There's no pressure for him to make a move by the deadline Thursday.
Exactly. One of the positives that was obvious when Dame was traded and gone is that you no longer were under pressure to build around him.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives you a chance to just kind of exhale and just really just evaluate what you have. And you don't come into the season expecting to win. Vegas got you at over under 28, right? So there's no real pressure there. And you don't have to make some kind of crazy move. You can sort of just let it breathe, let it marinate, and sort of see where everything is, and be more, calculating in what you do. So yeah, Joe's in a good spot. He's got picks. He's got young talent developing. He seems to have hit on some gems, like Kamara.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're in a pretty good spot.
All right, he's on X at Aaron J. Fentress. He's with the Oregonian. Aaron, tell everyone, how often do you put out the scoot check so they know when they can check for that?
Well, I'm on 6-1. Usually, it's usually a batch of games from anywhere from 8 to 12.
Okay.
But yeah, you go to Oregon Live right now and see the one. I go through everything he did, in that batch, and compare it to the previous, batches and stuff like that, just sort of give you a really good glimpse as to how he's progressing.
That's awesome. Dude, enjoy the game this weekend. And good luck to your Bears screwing it up no matter which direction they go. And I appreciate the time, man. We'll talk soon, buddy.
All right, thanks, bro.
There
Later.
you go. Aaron Fentress, spoken like a true Bears fan. Well, to be honest with you, Chad, no matter what they do, if they keep Fields, he'll be terrible. If they trade him, he'll become a star, and Caleb Williams would be bad. I love that. All right. I'll unpack a couple of the things that Aaron mentioned in regards to the Trailblazers and the deadline coming up next. And then Brooke Olsendam going to join us at 4 o'clock to discuss Brooke Hearts Your Heart. You got the Rip City Drive. I love Tina Turner. I think the name of this song is Private Dancer. What is a private dancer, anyways? I'm not sure what that is. I could use one, though. Your private dancer. Yeah, Tina's one of those performers like Cher or Whitney, where when they take stage, it's like they're in full command. I respect that type of power. Man, she was awesome. All right, Rip City Drive, Brooke Olzendam coming up at 4 o'clock to talk about Brooke Heart Your Heart. I think this is year number 5 now where she's been spreading her story to help raise money and awareness for heart health with the American Heart Association in Oregon and Southwest Washington. So we'll get the latest from her coming up at 4. We're going to talk football with Joe DeLeon. He's going to join us at 5:20, and he is awesome. So I can't wait to break down the Super Bowl, talk about the Senior Bowl, and look ahead to the NFL draft. I have a lot of people reaching out. Dude, I think the Broncos are going to take Bo Nix. I don't know, but I'm excited. So we'll find out how Bo did down at the Senior Bowl as well. Joe DeLeon at 5:20. Aaron Fentress from the Oregonian just joined us, and he really echoed a lot of the things that I'm hearing right now. I don't expect the Blazers to make a move by the deadline on Thursday, and that's different from what I was hearing when the year began. I mean, everyone I know who covers the team, people who are around the team, the idea and the thinking is that Brogdon would be moved out by the deadline. Well, I don't know if something's going to happen now because the chatter that I'm hearing is that they're not going to rush to make a move. They don't have to rush to make a move. They can be patient, and they may wait until the summer right there around the draft to see what the market is like then, and then make a move. Brogdon has turned out to be a very good mentor and member of the team. He's basically done everything they've asked, and I think they're going to do him right at some point by getting him in a spot where he wants to be. So I don't expect a move. Something could happen. It wouldn't surprise me, but I'm just not hearing that they're dead set on making a move. They could wait until the summertime, and really it makes no difference to me. They don't have to make a move right now. This is year 1 of a full rebuild, and they clearly have a lot of assets to work with on the roster, whether it be Malcolm Brogdon or Matisse Thybulle or Jeremy Grant at some time in the future. Like, they've got all these veteran pieces, Robert Williams, and at some point you're going to move, some of those guys to bring in young players or picks, but they don't have to do it right now. And I think for Joe Cronin, with cap flexibility now with Dame off the books and a roster that's loaded with veterans that other contenders at some point would have interest in, you can sit back and wait until you get the best offer. Now, I have been told that they value young players, so it doesn't have to be just draft picks. But if they can find a young player that can come in and be able to play and contribute, I think what Aaron said was the ideal would be to move Brogdon out and bring in a young forward that plays at about the same level of Brogdon. Like, that would be very helpful to help flesh out the lineup. And right now, I don't have a problem with Jeremy Grant playing big minutes because he's not taking minutes away from any of the youngsters on the bench because they really have no one that can duplicate what Jeremy Grant does. So we'll see how things continue to shake out. But with Chauncey Billups, the first couple of years were tank years. So I didn't expect much, and I don't think most coaches would really have a lot of success with the injuries and the direction of the franchise when they were trying to improve draft position. I think this is the first full year where we've been able to evaluate Chauncey as a coach. And like anything, it hasn't been perfect. But the biggest thing I'm paying attention to is the development of the young players. Like, that's my number one way to evaluate the coaching staff. And I like the development I see there. Tamani Kamara has started a number of games. He's been a tenacious defender and quite a find, and he's been very good for a young player, a rookie. Jabari Walker's emergence from being a second-round pick last year, barely playing, to becoming a regular part of the rotation and contributing to now being a starter next to Grant and Ayton, his development and work is terrific. I love his attitude. I love his approach. I love the fact that he is one of the few players in the NBA that knows his role and embraces it. He knows what he does best to help the team, and he focuses on that. He's got the ability and the smarts, the instincts to be an elite rebounder. I don't know if he's a starter long term, but I definitely know he belongs in the NBA. His development's been great. Shaden Sharp has shown flashes before the abdominal injury. And then, of course, Scoot's emergence over the last couple of weeks has been great. So I look at the coaching staff and I look at the development of the young players, and I'm pretty happy with where guys are coming along. Like I point to that and I'm like, okay, that's good. That's what you want. You tip the cap. And so that's my number one way to evaluate. And then after that, you can look at the way that they're playing on the floor. Are the guys playing the way that Chauncey wants them to play? Well, at times, defensively, yes. They've had struggles at times. We've seen some slippage. But on offense, same thing. But recently, over the last couple of weeks, we've seen the passes per game up, the assist numbers up. I think they had 29 in the loss on Sunday to Denver. They're doing a better job of moving the basketball. And we've seen other guys step up. Props to the coaching staff and the way they've worked with Jeremy Grant. Now, he's a little more ISO than I would like sometimes, but they've also encouraged him to be aggressive and shoot and look to score because they need that scoring with some of the guys they've had in and out of the lineup. But he's having one of his best seasons as a pro. So you've got to look at all of that as a whole and say, hey, there are things and areas of improvement that are needed, but there are also areas where they're doing a good job. And I think a lot of people have an issue with Billups because they didn't want him hired in the first place. They didn't like the past and the issues he'd had many, many years ago. They didn't want him hired. They maybe wanted somebody else. So I think those people are just looking for a reason to get rid of Billups. I have no issue with Billups whatsoever. I was happy to see him come in. I think the situation changed after he was hired. It clearly changed in the front office because the GM that hired him was forced out, and Joe Cronin became the guy. But they appear to have a good relationship and working together to construct the roster. And he went from what he thought would be a veteran team with Dame to now having a team that's littered with young players. So it's changed. And I'm sure the learning curve, it's been very steep for Billups, but I like what he's bringing. And you see over the last couple of weeks, the way the guys have responded, the way they're playing, much better basketball. I don't think he's lost the locker room. So I like the progress that they're making. But like I said, wait until the season's over, and then you can look back and have a full season to be able to truly evaluate. Not after 2 games or 5 games or 10 games or halfway through the season. Give yourself time to be able to step back and truly evaluate. So at the end of the year, we'll see where Scoot's at, Jabari, Shaden, Tamani, how the team's playing at that time, and we'll have a better evaluation of where they're at. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk with Brooke Olzendam. Brooke, Heart's Your Heart, and find out the good work that she's doing. I also want to find out what it's like for her in this new era to work with and be around and have a chance to talk to the young guys on the team. So we'll talk with Brooke Olzendam, and then we're going to get to football at 5:20 with Joe DeLeon. It's all here on the Rip City Drive. Be sure to join us this Friday, February 9th, at the Jackson's Food Mart off Bangy Road, right there at I-5 and 217. You can see it off the freeway. Dwight and I will be in the cooler, 37 degrees, very frosty, for 3 hours, raising money and awareness for ALS. And you can go to our website, ripcityradio.com, click on the Chillin' for a Cause icon, and go to our auction page. Great auction items up for bid right now, and all proceeds benefit ALS Northwest. Brooke Olzendam's coming up next. All right, 4 o'clock chat here. Super Bowl 58 coming up on Sunday. It's the 49ers and Chiefs. Travis Kelce ready to bring home some hardware like his lady. We're going to talk Super Bowl with Joe DeLeon coming up at 5:20. Right now, San Francisco is favored by 2. Kickoff from Allegiant Stadium in Vegas will be Sunday at 3:30. The Trailblazers will be in action Thursday. The Detroit Pistons are in town. Tip-off is at 7. Game day will start at 4:30 here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. NBA trade deadline is Thursday at noon. And coming up next on the Rip City Drive, the Trailblazers sideline reporter, the great Brooke Olzendam, is going to join me and talk about Brooke, Heart Your Heart. All right, today's an awesome day because our next guest is someone you know very well. She is on all the television broadcasts for your Portland Trailblazers, working with Lamar and Kevin as the Trailblazers sideline reporter, bringing you all the stories that you want to know about the players. And right now, she's entering into year number 5 with Brooke Heart Your Heart, and she's joining us right now to talk about it. Brooke, long time no chat. Thanks for coming on.
I know. Well, thank you so much, Chad, for having me. You and I usually see each other, find a way to chat more. So I've missed you. I'm so glad I finally get the chance to say what's up. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate it as always.
No, it's great. I thought this would be the perfect time because I saw the press release and I'm like, you know what? I'll just force Brooke to come on the show and then we'll finally be able to catch up. But look, I love this. I guess first off, year number 5 of Brooke Heart Your Heart. We'll get into your story in just a moment. But can you believe 5 years already? That's awesome.
No, I can't. I really can't, Chad. It's unbelievable. And every year is, I was talking about this with someone that, we raise money through Brooke Heart Your Heart on trailblazers.com/heart. And when the proceeds go to the American Heart Association, especially in Oregon, which is great. And every year, I'm just amazed by everyone that donates and is a part of it and wants to help and all that. And so it's so amazing to me that this following year, I'm like, oh, man, are we going to be able to do as well as we did last year? Because I get stressed out about it, because I'm just so grateful to people that would like to donate. And every year, it gets even better and more people want to help and be a part of it and support and donate. And the last couple of years, we've actually added a piece of merchandise so people can buy something that has Brooke Hearts Your Heart on it. And the first year we did a scarf, which sold out very quickly, and I was amazed by that. And the next year we did a knit stocking cap, and same with that. And this year we're doing a baseball hat, and we ordered more, so I hated telling people that they were sold out. That just broke my heart. So we're doing a really cool hat. It's very simple, but I love it, and everyone can wear it. And that's on sale at ripcityclothing.com, so you can buy one of those if you'd rather do that than donate, or both. And you get a hat and part of the community, and it means the world to me. So every year keeps getting better, and I'm still beside myself about it.
Gosh, that's awesome. Brooke Olzendam here on the Rip City Drive. All right. Well, for those who don't know, your husband, Andy, was a great athlete. He played collegiate ball, I think, at Oregon and also at Occidental College. But at the age of 27, 10 days after you were married, he passed away from a heart attack. And that tragedy is kind of what pushed you into this direction. But how long did it take you after that tragedy, Brooke, before you were able to sit back and say, how can we use this tragedy to make good? How long did that process take for you?
Chad, it took longer than, now that I look back, it took me longer than I probably thought it would. But at the time when you're going through it, your mind isn't really thinking. It takes a while to get to a place where, at least for me, I went through the steps of emotional, help. I reached out when I first went to Indiana. When I worked for the Pacers, I sought out some obviously professional help with getting through trauma, and that was pretty intense. So that was kind of the first step I had to take before I could really even wrap my brain around the next steps. It was just kind of I was in survival mode for a while, and when I kind of got onto the other side, that was when I felt the most comfortable, the most supported, and most at home, and that was with the organization that I'm with now, the Portland Trailblazers. And it was a couple of years into it, I, really took a step back and said, these fans, this fan base, this organization, these people, I feel like I completely trust them. And that was when it kind of hit me, like, if I'm going to do something about this and try to make good from this, I want to do it with people I trust and that trust me and want to support what I'm doing, and that is the Portland Trailblazers. So I reached out to Annie and Krista in the organization and said, this is my idea. I've never done anything like this. How do we do this? Can we do this? And they were so wonderful and said, absolutely, let's get started right away. And it was because of the comfort level I feel with this job and these people that I knew that I would be in a safe space and I would have the support and help, because this is quite an endeavor to start a foundation when you've never done it before. You have no idea how to do it, and all the little nuances about, where proceeds go. How do you do this without? There's little rules that go along with it too, and I obviously am not privy to all of that. So I received the help that I needed from the organization, and that was exactly, I was in the right place, right time, right people, that I knew that this would be a success and that everyone would be right there with me along the way. So it took a while, but it was the right time. I wouldn't change anything.
That's great. I wanted to ask you about trust, and I'm glad you brought up the Trailblazers, because in order to share this type of story and what you went through with your tragedy, you have to be willing to be vulnerable and share your story, and you don't know how people are going to react to it. But in addition to the Trailblazers and the great support and trust you have with them, I've been saying it for years that unless you've lived here and been a part of it, most people don't understand. But like I do, Brooke, that Rip City is a different community in the NBA world. Mm-hmm. There's no town like Portland when it comes to relationship and between the team and fans across the NBA. And I'm wondering, too, that in addition to the team, how much did it help you that you trust and feel embraced by Rip City and the fans and the people that make up our community here in Portland to help you go out and feel the desire and willingness to share your story?
Honestly, Chad, that's first and foremost. I suppose I should have started with that. They are a part of this. When I say organization and this team as a whole, I just consider Rip City fans a part of that as well, because they have done nothing but be supportive and embrace me and my wackiness since I arrived in Portland. I've always been a little bit a weird one, and so are our fans. You know what I mean? We have just this connection where we love the team no matter what. And I know people have a feeling about that, whether you work for the team or not, but being with them day in and day out, traveling, new guys, alumni, whatever, new coaches, old coaches, it really becomes a family away from your family. And you see fans at home that you have relationships with now. I got my people. Every home game, I know when I'm going to see, who I'm going to see when.
Yes.
It's the same. And then there are people that pop up that I'm like, oh, I know you from Twitter. And I've realized I've been chatting with them for 10 years, and now I have a face to the Twitter handle. It's just such an amazing support system just with each other and it's like day to day. Like you jump on Twitter and you can follow the game along with the people that you do every single night, and you go back and forth. And it's just such a unique group. And other people from other teams that do what I do, they notice it, and they say it all the time. Like, your fan base is unbelievable. Not just how loud they are at home games. That's one benefit of the fans of Rip City, but it's the community aspect that I have just completely been in awe of, and I feel a part of. And when you say the trust in them, that is really kind of the driving force that started this, Chad. So I completely agree with you, and all the love to our fans. It's very special, and unless you truly are a part of it or are close to it or have a friend or a family member that's involved that can explain it in its entirety, you don't really understand. But it's the truth, and they are a huge part of the reason for this.
That's awesome. Brooke Olzendam here on the Rip City Drive. You did a great job of expressing that, Brooke. I think this might be part of the essence of what you're trying to do with the American Heart Association. But I heard you say once or in the past that when Andy would do cardio work, he would experience some difficulty. You didn't know it at the time, but these turned out to be the signs that you're now encouraging people to pay attention to. Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. So Andy, if you knew him or you've seen pictures of him or watched him play football, just a specimen of a human being, 6'3", peak shape, took very good care of his body, ate well, and worked out all the time, and was always training because his dream was to play in the NFL. And so he was always working out. So much so that I got used to him getting back from a run and being exhausted. And now that we look back and now we know exactly what happened, he was using only 10% of his heart was doing what 100% of a heart needed to do. The blood wasn't flowing to it. He had a carotid artery, so he was expending 90% more energy than an average heart would, a normal healthy heart would. And he would go through 10 workout shirts, during a cardio workout, and he was just working so hard. His heart was working extra hard. And at the time, we just thought that, man, he would say, he's like, I really hate cardio. I'm like, well, we all hate cardio, but now that I know and I look back, I'm like, wow, it was physically, it was more difficult for him, and it took more energy out of him. And it was just so hard on his heart that was not working at 100%, even close. And so that was one of my messages one year, was really just listen to your body, listen to it, and kind of pay attention to people around you, your loved ones too as well. Think of my friend who's in great shape always after a run or after cardio seems to be a little more tired than you would think they would be for being in the shape that they're in. And I had a friend in college, she's still my friend. She called me after that video came out that Lamar had interviewed me, and I talked about this specific story about Andy and this. And she said she reached out to her sister, who's in great shape. She owns her own fitness studio. Mm-hmm. Reached out to her and said, hey, will you just watch this interview? I don't know. I just have this feeling, like sometimes I think this about you. I don't know why, because you're in great shape, but just watch it and see what you think. And so her sister watched it and said, yeah, I feel like I should go get checked out. And she did, and she had a heart issue, and she had to get emergency heart surgery the following week, which saved her life. So that story right there is something that I say all of this, no matter if it doesn't do any good anywhere else, that right there is worth it. So it can't hurt to get checked if you even have a small question about yourself or someone that you love or someone that you spend time with that you think that this might be the case for them.
Gosh, that's awesome. Now, I think over the first 4 years, Brooks Heart Your Heart raised over $100,000 for the American Heart Association for Oregon and Southwest Washington, which is freaking awesome. Now, what is the goal? I know you hate pressure, Brooke, but what is the goal this year? And I believe the Trailblazers are being awesome. Isn't there a matching funds that they're going to help with as well?
Yes, Chad, and that's like what really blows me away. So when we first started, even just on top of all their help putting this together and working with the Heart Association and getting the page up and just doing all these things to help just get the foundation up and going, they said, we want to be a part of it and help as well. And so if and when I have in the past years gotten to 5,000, they will match the 5,000. And I'm so thrilled to say we reached 5,000 and surpassed it on the fourth day of February. So just a few days into it. So,
all right.
Yeah, we're already over 10 with that match, and we still have the rest of the month to go. So that's the first goal of mine, Chad, is just to get to 5. And then I'm like, okay, that's wonderful. We've reached the goal that will be matched by the Blazers. So we've done that. And the rest, I mean, we will continue to raise money throughout the rest of the month. Then we'll add the hats in at the end, which is always a nice bump in that. So my first initial goal has been reached, and I would love to get up to 10 just through donations alone. And then you add that 5 and the 15. And I'm already over the moon about it. So anything else would just be extra help to the research that the Heart Association does is just unbelievable. So anything that we can get to, I'm pleased with. But I would love to reach 10,000 with our little community and just grab that 5 from the Blazers, which is so beneficial, and I would just be thrilled with that.
Gosh, what's amazing about the Trailblazers? Everyone gets so focused in on the team and the performance, and that's fine. But I've been saying it for years. The work that the Trailblazers do with their foundation in the community for so many different people, it's truly mind-blowing. They do one of the best jobs in sports in terms of assisting the community with their foundation. It's awesome. And the support with you.
No, they do. And I was at practice today, and the guys were like, yeah, we're going to kind of get ready for this afternoon. And I had already seen the press release, but I was like, tell me more about what's going on this afternoon or this evening. So I think it started at 5. They're bringing back the youth, not youth movement, but kids are going to be able to come to the practice facility tonight that are getting involved in Blazers youth basketball, and they're going to actually get to work out, kind of practice, do a little bit of I guess you would call it kind of a camp, if you will. It's just a day camp, but with the Blazers, the whole team, all the coaches, and they really want to get into that, which I know is so important. And the kids, that's a life changer, a game changer when you can say you went to the practice facility and worked out, played basketball with the entire Trailblazers team and the coaching staff. So that's just one example. And they'll all be there tonight, every single one of them. And, yeah, the community's aspect is unreal because the community is so involved, It's just the community, it supports the team and the team supports the community. All
right, so 2 more questions for you. Number 1, for the people in Rip City that are listening right now and want to assist, what is the best way for people to help? Is it to donate? Is it to buy your gear? And how do they do that? What's the easiest way, Brooke?
Yeah, thank you. So you go to trailblazers.com/heart, and that is the page for Brooke Hearts Your Heart, and has a ton of information on it. If you have just 5 minutes, click on hands-only CPR. If you've ever thought, maybe what if I find myself in a position where I'm the only one that can help someone in a situation like that? It's a couple minutes. You can teach yourself some skills on that front. Also, signs of a heart attack, signs of a stroke. There's a lot of information, but to donate, to your question, Chad, is that you scroll down and it says donations, and you click on that, and you can donate $5, you can donate $50, whatever you're comfortable with, if you can. If not, just go and teach yourself a little bit about heart health. And also, you can buy the hat online on that page. You can also walk into Rip City Clothing Company at Moda and buy it there, and the proceeds go to Heart Association. And then also, you can buy a ticket to the February 27th game, which is against Miami. And if you buy it through the site, so through the website, not just, trailblazers.com, you have to go to the Heart site for Hearts Your Heart. If you buy the ticket there, you can stay after, shoot free throws on the floor, and I'll come down post-game and hang out. So there's a bunch of different ways you can be involved.
Okay, I'm looking at the page right now. So just simply go to trailblazers.com/heart, and it will take you to the page. And right at the middle section on the left side, you'll see it says join. Brooke, to celebrate Heart Month on February 27th at our game against Miami at 7 o'clock. For each ticket purchased through this link, you'll be provided with the opportunity to shoot a free throw post-game on the basketball court and take a photo with Brooke in support of her efforts to support American Heart Association. And it's got the little icon, get tickets, right there. So go to trailblazers.com/heart to buy tickets for the game against Miami. All right, that's good. Now, one question for you. As you know, and we all know, this is a new era in Trailblazer basketball. I'm wondering for you, how nice has it been to get a chance to know the young players that we've watched, like Jabari Walker, Scoot Henderson, Shaden Sharp, and Tamani Kamara? What's it been like for you to watch these young guys grow in year one of this new era here in Portland?
Definitely a new era, as you know. The first half, longer of my career with the team, it was pretty consistent with the coaching staff, with the players, with, all-star Damian Lillard, DJ around for a while, and then Nurk. So I got to know that team. And there'll obviously be new guys, coming and going every year, which I'll also formed relationships with. But it was kind of the same cast of characters there for a while, and so you became close. You knew their stories. You were able to tell their stories. So I've kind of taken this as like a new chapter in my career with the team, because it is now okay. I want to gain the trust of these guys, make sure they know that I'm in their corner. I'm here to tell their stories, share their whatever they would like to be shared with the fans and with the community. So it's been kind of fun for me to say, okay, Scoot, you're 19, now 20, but you have quite a story. And so getting to know him has been a pleasure. Watching him just start from the beginning, all this pressure, he's really done amazing in my eyes, how far he's come to where he is now.
Yeah.
Through the coaching staff, too, with how Chauncey has, said, you're so strong. You have all the, the strength that you have, you use it to work for you when you go downhill, and all these little things that the coaching staff is telling him, like, this is you'll be at your peak if you really focus on this. And he listens, and you can see how far he's come. He's very coachable. And Jabari, become a fan favorite. Love him. Tumani, Heart and Hustle. It's just been fun for me to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to get to know these guys. Really get in there, and it's been fun. Everyone's different, but they all get along, which is a huge thing for the team and the organization, and for all of us who are covering the team. It's been fun. It's been really fun for me. In general, change kind of freaks me out in any aspect of my life, but this has been one where I've just embraced it and said, this is going to be fun. It's different than it was before, but I like this change. It's been fun to just kind of start over a little bit and say, okay, this is kind of a new aspect of your job. Get to know all these guys, and they're a different part in their career than maybe guys you covered before, and that's kind of fun, and it's new. And I've really enjoyed it so far, and I'm looking forward to how the rest of the season goes, and then moving forward.
Yeah, I've seen it in your interactions with Scoot. Like, I love him because he oozes positivity. Like, he's not too cool for school. He shares what's on his mind, but he's always smiling and happy. Like, you can tell he's just happy to have a chance to compete and be an NBA player. Like, that's infectious, and I like it.
It's very infectious, and we love he has the confidence, and that comes from just, I would have to believe his family, and it just comes from within with him. Lamar always says that, like, you can't really teach that. That's something that you just have.
Well, if I had a body like that, I would walk around feeling like I could conquer the world, man. He's chiseled from stone. I'd feel great, too.
What's funny is a lot of the guys do workouts after games just because, you're there. The bus isn't going to leave for a while. This is when we're on the road, and So, and at home they do them too. So they have like specific workouts with our health and performance team. And I was waiting for the locker room to open, and he was working out. Scoot was doing some abs, some core work, which I watching going, I couldn't do one of those. But anyway, so he comes into the locker room, and he doesn't have his shirt on because, you know, he's sweating, did this intense core workout. And Rasan's like, Scooty, you ready to talk to the media? He's like, yeah, should I put a shirt on? And we all kind of laughed. Like, if we had abs like that, we wouldn't, but it's up to you.
Yeah. Why wear a shirt? I wouldn't.
Wrong.
Oh, no.
He's a tank.
There's times where you've talked to him on the floor, and I'm like, is his shoulder talking to me, or is it just flexing right now? It's like, it's amazing. It's great to be young and powerful like that, man. It's cool.
It's cool, and I mean, I think that part of it is natural, but he works his tail off. I mean, it comes from working out, really focusing, and working hard. But there's also, I think, an aspect of it where he's just built for that. Like, that's just his body type, and he's a tank, and he's doing a great job of using it. We were talking about that earlier today, especially, you know, he got to the line 12 times in that first game against Denver. He uses that strength, and it's difficult to guard. I mean, you can see it. So but to your question, your point, it's just been a new fun challenge for me, and I've really enjoyed getting to know the new guys and their stories. And it's fun because I love, back to our fans, I love them. Just the way that they kind of embrace different guys for different reasons. Yeah. Everyone kind of has the guy they're rooting for, or a couple guys that they really enjoy. And it's just the other night, for example, when Chris Murray got the start, I can't tell you how many people I heard say, I'm just so happy, including myself, I'm just so happy for him. He's just a nice, lovely young man. And to get this opportunity, it was a cool moment for him. And they're guys that are easy to root for.
He's one of the most well-mannered human beings I've ever met in my life. And I see it now from his father and his brother and the family that he grew up in. But his demeanor and the way he handles himself, I'm like, it's remarkable for someone of that age. He's mind-blowing in that department.
I completely agree. The first day that I talked to him, Chad, he must watch a lot of NBA TV, especially with his brother having played for a few years.
He's
he must
a junkie.
Watch a lot of. Yeah, he is. And so I remember I hadn't even had the chance to introduce myself to him. It was day one, right? Like, so I'm going around saying, who haven't I met yet? And I went up, and before I could even, like, say, hi, Chris, I'm Brooke, he's like, oh, hey, Brooke. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Chris. I'm like, wow, that's a first.
That's
That is
awesome.
a first, which I know I was kind of blown away. And he's just, the manners on that young man are, you're right, through the roof. He was raised right. His brother got a chance to talk with him briefly, too. Obviously, very similar. They're twins, but the same manner. He's lovely. And, again, just guys that you want to see succeed in they're working their tails off and getting to know each other still. You know, with the health stuff this year, they haven't had a chance to all play together as much as they would like. And we're watching that kind of come to fruition now with DeAndre and some of the young guys, and Anthony. The connection there, every game you see get better and better, and they're figuring each other's games out. So with every game, I see improvement, and I always see energy and effort, but I'm seeing improvement in just kind of the chemistry with the guys on the floor because they just are getting to play with each other more, which is great.
That's great. Oh, the other thing I came across, I didn't know this, but my boss is Rich Moore, who's based out of Seattle. And I told him you were coming on the show, and he's like, oh, yeah, Brooke, she used to do work for us up here. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know it, but you know Rich Moore. He's like my favorite radio boss of all time. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Of course I know Rich. Yeah, no, I would go in. I was the morning shift up there. Like, gosh, I came a long time ago, like in my early 20s.
We're doing like updates?
I would go do, his updates.
Wow. Awesome.
I worked on Softy's show. I did updates for Softy, but then Ian and Puckett would be after. Yeah. And they're both, they're Cougs. And so the Coug doing updates for the Husky show. So I'll usually stay, and they'd have me on their show, like actually on the show. So I'd do updates for Softy in the middle of his show, and then afterwards, a lot of the times they'd say, come on, stay and come on the show. And so I'd stay and actually do their show. It was such a fun time because my dad grew up in Seattle, and he lives there now, and his whole side of the family has always been out of Seattle. So KJR, I listen to all the time. I listen to you. I'm a sports radio junkie. I have that. I don't really listen to music in my car. It's all sports radio. So growing up listening to these guys and then down being a part of their show was truly kind of, mind-blowing for me at that age. It was really fun. And then, this is kind of funny, when I left, I trained who took my spot, Abby Chin, who then ended up coming up to Portland for a while. Yeah. She also worked, or coming down to Portland for a while. she worked for CSN for a while, and now she is the sideline reporter for the Celtics. So very small world. And before me, here's a crazy one. Who did the updates before me is, oh my gosh, why is it escaping me?
Gillies?
She's the queen of the NFL, Diane Rossini.
Oh, Rossini. That's
Yeah,
right.
Rossini, me, Abby Chin did this update for Saucy Show.
Well, I feel this. See, this is such great information because I didn't realize that you had cut your teeth in radio. So I have this newfound, even greater respect for you, Brooke. Like, this is awesome. We're like,
Thanks, Chad. That means a lot to
you're
me.
part of the radio family too, man. You've done it all.
I have. I was a radio gal there for a long time, and I had a blast.
And I love your dad because I know he loves Larry Bird, and that makes me happy. So, see, it's all good.
Oh, Chad, you're the greatest. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, go to the website, trailblazers.com/heart, and you'll get all the information you need as Brooke Olzendam enters year 5 of Brooke Hearts Your Heart. Brooke, I love the story. I love what you and the Trailblazers are doing for the community and the wonderful partnership you found to be able to help benefit the American Heart Association. But thank you for sharing your story because I know you've said it a million times, but there are still people out there that haven't heard it, and I think it's important for people to hear it and understand the importance of being able to help support your cause so that we can prevent what happened to Andy when other people's might be able to pay attention to those signs. So thank you.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate your support. Every year, I always come on and talk to you about it, and it means a lot to me. I love talking basketball with you, but this means a lot that you care to support this too, and it means so much. So I appreciate you.
All right, you got it. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Brooke.
Bye, Chad.
There you go. Brooke Olzendam, killing it like usual. I think Shacker's playing Heart and Soul right now by Huey Lewis in the news. It's very crafty. Very, very crafty. I think we're about to get a big helping of Heart songs the rest of the show, and I'm all for it. Big thanks to Brooke Olzendam. Go to trailblazers.com/heart, and you can learn all the details of Brooke Hearts Your Heart, and you can get the information for what she's doing in year 5, which has already raised over $100,000. We'll talk football with Joe DeLeon coming up at 5:20 here on the Rip City Drive. All right, little blame it on the boogie. All right, bad news. Just got this report from the Trailblazers. Shaden Sharp is going to require core surgery and is out indefinitely. So that really sucks. I wonder how that might impact their decision-making with the trade deadline coming up on Thursday. No Shaden Sharp, and if he's going to be out indefinitely and we're past the midway point in terms of games played in the season, All-Star break is right around the corner. My guess is he's not going to come back this year. He'll be reevaluated at a later date. The real shame here is, we talk about the importance of this season being a year of development for the young players. Scoot Henderson, Jabari Walker, Tamani Kamara, and, of course, Shaden Sharp. So him having this injury, it's good to get the procedure. If it's going to be a persisting issue, get the procedure now, get rest, get recovery, and get back on the floor. Get healthy and come back when you can. But it is a setback to his development because now he's going to miss out on, 30 or so more games that they could be playing where he could play and have a chance to be on the floor and be productive and get a chance to grow. And now that's going to stunt that. And it's unfortunate because he had shown flashes. And I feel like early in the season, they overwhelmed him by asking him to do so much because there were so many guys out of the lineup. I just wonder now, with knowing that Sharp's going to be out indefinitely, and you've been rolling out Ant and Brogdon in the starting lineup with Scoot coming off the bench. I guess if they move Brogdon, if they did trade Brogdon before the deadline Thursday, then I guess they could continue to roll out Ant and Tease at guard and then bring Scoot off the bench. That's probably what they would do. So if they're going to move Brogdon, my guess is they'll roll with Ant and Tease in the backcourt for the rest of the year and bring Scoot off the bench. So I don't know if it would impact their decision-making at all. My guess is if they get the right offer or they get an offer that's just too good to pass up, they'll make the move regardless. But most importantly, this just sucks for Shaden because the best way to develop is to play and to be on the floor and play regularly. And it would have given him a chance, if he hadn't suffered that abdominal problem, to where he could have played and started many games. Because you remember down the stretch last year, he got a ton of playing time. And that would have been the same case this year. Because what my hope was, especially when you look at Scoot and the way he's playing over the last couple of weeks, like what's that going to look like a month from now? What's it going to look like towards the end of the season? And then you enter into the offseason with a chance to really go to school on your game. Practice, work, film work, talk to the coaches, and you think about how farther along Scoot will be going into year number 2 with all of that work and that practice time and the experience after having the rookie season under his belt. Well, what would that have looked like for Shaden if he would have finished out year number 2, getting a chance to start and play big minutes, develop some confidence, continue to make improvements, and then you enter the offseason with a chance to go to work and really set yourself up for him. It'd be year number 3, and for Scoot, year number 2. So those guys could hit next season with, really hit the ground running. So now Scoot will have to get the procedure, go through the recovery process, get healthy, and then at some point in the future resume his basketball activities. So it's a setback. It's unfortunate, and I hate it. I feel bad for him. Young guys just want to ball. They want to get a chance to play and showcase what they can do. And that's just not going to be the case for him. Dang. It's always something. Always. That's too bad. And we just talked about it with, we were talking about it with Brooke, and then we were talking about it with Aaron Fentress. The young players and the development of the young guys is the most important thing. I've been saying that since the beginning of the year. How those guys come along and develop. So you find out what you have in them and know what their role is going to be moving forward. So there you go. That's too bad. Scoot and Shaden both have shown flashes of brilliance this year. They've had struggles too, but they've shown flashes of brilliance. So I think for the Blazers, they just got to get him healthy, get him rehabbed, and then get him back on the floor. But my guess would be with, 32 games remaining? What are they, 15 and 35? I think there's 32 games left in the season. Yeah, he's probably done for the year. Probably. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We're going to talk football with Joe DeLeon. He's coming up at 5:20. I will tell you why this game on Sunday is so critical for both teams. It's critical. When you're talking about legacy and wanting to be considered one of the greats, it's important for both teams with certain people as individuals. I'll explain why coming up at 5. And then Joe DeLeon talking Super Bowl and Senior Bowl as we get ready for the draft. That's coming up at 5:20. All right, my buddy Jason Peterson is busting my balls right now. He sent me a text. I can't wait to hear your take on why Sunday's game is critical for both teams. I assumed it was just because it was a Super Bowl. Yeah, that's a fair point on your part, Jason. I appreciate that. All right, we have Trailblazers Ticket Tuesday. We have 2 pairs of tickets to give away today. We're going to do one now, and we'll do another pair coming up at 5 o'clock. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. It is courtesy of 620 Rip City Radio and your Portland Trailblazers. It's powered by Lazy Boy. Get game ready with Lazy Boy. So your chance to win is now and coming up at 5. And what we're going to do is we'll do a little Super Bowl trivia. And it's the first person with the correct answer. First person correct answer will get a pair of tickets to see your Portland Trailblazers. And this one is for the game coming up on the 10th this weekend against the New Orleans Pelicans. So you get Zion, CJ and company taking on your Portland Trailblazers. First person correct answer. Telephone is 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Trailblazers and Pelicans. Who is the last defensive player to win a Super Bowl MVP? Call now, 503-248-0620. First caller with the correct answer will win a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans. Last defensive player to win a Super Bowl MVP. 503-248-0620. The first person with the correct answer will get a pair of tickets to see the Trailblazers and Pelicans. 503-248-0620. Last defensive player to win a Super Bowl MVP. 503-248-0620. And then we'll do another pair for Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday coming up at 5. For all of your Trailblazer ticket needs, just simply go to trailblazers.com. And I think what you'll be happy to know is that even for games you don't expect, there are tickets that are still available. All right, let's go out to the phones. Who is the last defensive player to win a Super Bowl MVP? We'll start with Francisco. Francisco, welcome to the Rip City Drive. What's your guess? Last defensive player to win a Super Bowl MVP?
What's going on?
What's up?
Talanoa Hufunga's uncle, Mr. Troy Polamalu.
That's a good guess, but that is incorrect. It is not Troy Polamalu. 503-248-0620. Let's go out to Steve. Steve, welcome to the Rip City Drive. Trailblazer tickets on the line. Who was the last defensive player to win a Super Bowl MVP?
Hey, man, great to be here. I think I'm just going to guess the fridge, Perry.
That is not correct, my friend. Good guess, though. Part of that 85 Bears defense. I believe his teammate, Richard Dent, won the MVP that year. Super Bowl 20 against the Patriots. Bears and Patriots, Richard Dent, not the refrigerator William Perry. Let's go out to Jason. Jason, appreciate the phone call. You're up on the Rip City Drive. Trailblazer tickets on the line. Who was the last defensive player to win MVP in the Super Bowl?
Troy Polamalu?
That is not correct. 2 people guessing Troy Polamalu. Let's go out to Barry. Barry, welcome to the Rip City Drive. Who was the last defensive player to win a Super Bowl MVP?
From Tennessee State, Richard Dent.
That's not correct. He did win, but he was not the last. He did win one, but he was not the last. Richard Dent. Richard Dent was a bad boy. That Bears defense was nasty. Let's go out to Cody. Cody, you're next up on the Rip City Drive. Who was the last defensive player to win Super Bowl MVP?
Was it Malcolm Butler?
No, not correct, my friend. Good guess, though. After that ridiculous call by the Patriots, he picked off Russell Wilson. Let's go back out to the phones. Jason. Jason, welcome to the Rip City Drive. Who was the last defensive player to win a Super Bowl MVP?
I'm going with LT, Lawrence Taylor.
That is not correct. That is not correct. Lawrence Taylor did not win a Super Bowl MVP. My, oh my. Okay, let's go out to Joey. Joey, appreciate the phone call. You're up on the Rip City Drive looking for the last defensive player to win MVP in a Super Bowl. Who is it?
Yo, got to be Von Miller.
That is correct. Von Miller, Super Bowl 50, Broncos, Panthers, and the Broncos got the championship with Peyton Manning in his final year. Nice work, buddy.
Yes, sir.
All right, so who do you like this Sunday with the 49ers and Chiefs?
Oh, God. I mean, neither. But I'm going to have to go Niners because my wife's dad's a big Niners fan. So
Who's your
gotta root
team?
for 'em. Oh, Chargers, unfortunately. But, hey, with Harbaugh.
Oh, wait a second. What do you mean,
anything's
unfortunately,
possible.
dude? Like, this is like the greatest time ever to be a Charger fan now that you have Herbert and you've got a legitimate head coach.
It is. Things are looking up for sure. And, I mean, it's only up and up from here, given what we've seen so far. So I'm excited.
That's true. But I understand, too. The history would tell you that something will go sideways. I know where you're coming from.
Exactly. I'm just trying to be realistic, not too optimistic with this. But we'll see. It'll be exciting next year.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joey. Shacker's going to get your information, and you're set. You'll be set for Saturday's game against the Pelicans. Nice work.
Cool. Thanks so much.
There you go. All right, get his information, Shacker. Big work. Nice work by Joey. Right now, the list. Von Miller's Super Bowl 50. He was the outside backer for the Broncos, one of the great all-time Broncos. Malcolm Smith for the Seahawks in Super Bowl 48, a game I would just prefer to forget. Dexter Jackson with the Buccaneers. Ray Lewis with the Ravens. Larry Brown in Super Bowl 30 with the Cowboys after Neil O'Donnell gifted him a couple of passes. Richard Dent, who was mentioned a couple of times by our callers, with that great 85 Bears defense, the 46 defense from Buddy Ryan when they slaughtered the Patriots 46-10. Harvey Martin and Randy White of the Cowboys. Jake Scott, safety with the Dolphins, and Chuck Howley, Cowboys linebacker. And Howley, of course, Super Bowl 5, first defensive player to win MVP in a Super Bowl. And that is your list. That is your list. All right, we're going to come back. We got another pair of tickets to give away. So if you did not win this time, we'll have another pair of tickets to give away coming up at 5 o'clock. And the next game, the next item up for bid will be the Trailblazers and Timberwolves. And don't look now, but the Timberwolves have been one of the best teams in the West all season long. So the next pair of tickets coming up at 5 will be the Trailblazers and Timberwolves. And that game is going to be on February 13th. So the New Orleans game this weekend, day before Super Bowl, and on the 13th, the Timberwolves in town. And we'll give that pair of tickets away next. And then we'll talk football with Joe DeLeon at 5:20. And I'll share my reasons why this game is big, aside from the fact it's the Super Bowl. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, 5 o'clock Chad here. We got Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday coming up next. Super Bowl 58 Sunday down in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium, the 49ers and Chiefs. Nonsense at Media Day as Patrick Mahomes was asked about his voice. San Francisco is favored by 2. Kickoff will be CBS at 3:30. We're going to talk football with Joe DeLeon, draft expert and NFL insider. He'll join the show coming up at 5:20. Bad news for the Trailblazers. Shaedon Sharpe will need core surgery to resolve an abdominal issue and is out indefinitely. The Trailblazers are back in action Thursday. The Detroit Pistons are in town. Tip-off is at 7. Blazers game day will start at 4:30 here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday coming at you next. All right, Joe DeLeon coming up in 20 minutes. We'll talk Super Bowl with him. And we've got Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. The Wolves and Trailblazer tickets coming up on February 13th. We'll give those away here in a few minutes. Shacker has a personal emergency at the very moment, and when he's back in the control room at Master Control, we'll do the ticket giveaway. He said something about spicy curry, and then he just disappeared. So I don't know what's going on. I don't want to know what's going on. I just know that we have to wait a few minutes before we do the ticket giveaway, and so we'll do that. And how about that guy at the Super Bowl Media Day? And I've covered a couple of Super Bowls, and Media Day is a frenzy. It's as crazy as you think it is. And the questions that are asked by all the people that are there are absurd. But this one was pretty funny to me. Anytime there's Kermit the Frog references and Patrick Mahomes, I'm in. I don't think he appreciated the question. It's a legitimate question. Like, hey, Pat, why do you sound like that? Hey, Patrick, I know you've been asked this a million times, and your teammates probably make fun of you, but why does your voice sound like that? How can you be like the greatest quarterback of all time and sound like a Muppet? I don't understand. Legitimate question in my mind. I am wondering the same thing every time I hear that guy talk. Like, wait, what? He sounds like that? He's the most amazing quarterback I've ever seen, and yet he sounds like that. So the game on Sunday, look, I broke it down yesterday. The 49ers better have a plan for Travis Kelce. Like, understand, they're going to throw him the football. What is your plan? You going to let him run free? Or if you're playing zone, he's just going to be able to go wherever he wants, and you're not going to have someone bump him? No physicality, just let him have 11 targets for 11 receptions like the Ravens did? I would go into the game and say anyone but him. So I'm talking about Fred Warner. I'm talking about someone up on him. I'm talking about help over the top, help underneath. Use as many people as necessary to make sure he doesn't become the guy to kill you. And if one of their young receivers ends up beating you, so be it. Like back in the old days when the Blazers were taking on the Warriors. I remember Draymond Green said, look, we're just not going to let Dame or CJ be the guy to beat us. We'll let Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Amino shoot those shots, or Evan Turner. And if they do, fine. But that's the way you got to approach Travis Kelce, anyone but him. The problem is he's got this unique ability to break off routes, run different routes based on what he's seeing in real time as the play begins, and he and Patrick Mahomes are crazily on the same page. But I would go in with a game plan to somehow eliminate him. How many teams go in with what they think is a game plan and he ends up wide open all the time? I don't understand it. He's always open. That's how good he is. Hall of Fame player, maybe the best at his position all time. Also, Christian McCaffrey is the second best player on the field after Patrick Mahomes. Get him involved, and I mean as many ways as possible. As I mentioned before, at Stanford, they had the McCaffrey Project. That was designed for all the coaches to get together in one room at a table and come up with as many different ways based on the opponent they were playing to get him the football because of the impact he can have on the game. The guy is a terrific football player. He always goes forward when he gets hit. Great receiver, good in special teams. He can run between the tackles. He does everything. I loved his dad, Ed McCaffrey, great receiver and tough. And Christian McCaffrey's the same way. Great football player. Super smart, dynamic, can be a game breaker, and needs to be the featured player on that offense. And then for the 49ers defense, I just want to see the defensive front seven, heck, the front four. Can you make an impact in the game? Before halftime, you've got big money there. You've got big names. Can you guys make an impact? Because they've been virtually non-existent over the last several weeks. I don't understand it. Because you look at the roster and the names they've got, unacceptable. So I'm definitely looking to get McCaffrey involved, have a game plan for Kelsey, and I would get Purdy in a position to where early on you have some plays where he can make some easy completions, get into a rhythm, develop some confidence, because you know how the nerves are at the beginning of a Super Bowl. You have a tendency to overthrow things. You're all amped up. Get him some easy throws early to get him into a rhythm so he doesn't get off to the slow start we saw against Green Bay and Detroit. Now, for the Chiefs, I think the formula that we've seen throughout their 3 playoff wins, I think, is the key. Patrick Mahomes needs to be patient and protect the football, and they need to make sure that they are committed to the run. And that's been their formula for success. Running the football, Mahomes being smart with his decision-making and protecting the ball, and then relying on the defense. That's really been their key. So I want to see a heavy dose of Pacheco. I love his anger. I like the way he runs hungry. He's got a purpose behind everything he does on the football field. And the key will be protecting Mahomes, because if they can't get pressure on him, he's going to make plays. But this game, it's significant for a couple of different reasons. One, Kyle Shanahan is trying to get that monkey off his back that he can win the big game. And there are people, we talked with Evan Giddings yesterday, there are people that wonder if he's got the ability to win the big game, because he's known as the best play designer and schemer in the NFL. But he's also known as a guy that is married to his plan, his game plan. He doesn't like to deviate from the game plan, but sometimes the game and the way it's playing out calls for you to be flexible. Can he be flexible and adjust, if need be, to put his team in a position to win? That's going to be a big question. Because Andy Reid's not going to make the same bad decisions that Dan Campbell did to open up the door and help the 49ers out. Reid doesn't make those type of mistakes, and Patrick Mahomes is very sharp and smart. And he's going to play and protect the football. That's critical. But Shanahan, if you want to be considered one of the absolute best, he's got pressure on him to win this game. And if he wins this game and gets a championship and brings one back to the 49ers for the first time in 30 years, he could take a breath, step back. He'll have that elite status as a championship coach, and it will buy him more time to continue to construct the team the way he wants. And that takes him to a different level. And he is the coach of this generation. If you are part of the Shanahan tree, you're going to get hired. Pretty much every team in the NFL right now wants a part of that tree because it's been so good. So for Shanahan, it's critical. If he doesn't win, people will continue to question whether or not he can win the big game, and that pressure is only going to continue to mount. And what I respect about the 49ers is that they're in the business to win championships. That's how they measure themselves. That's all they care about. And I like teams that care about winning, that prioritize winning as number one, because not every ownership group and team does it that way. The Chiefs are the same way. Great franchise that cares about winning. Now, for the Chiefs, look, Andy Reid has got 2 championships. Whether he has a third or not, no matter how many he ends up with, he is now in that elite status. Multiple titles as a coach, was great in Philadelphia, took it to a different level with Mahomes in Kansas City. He's etched his legacy in stone. But here's where it gets interesting for Mahomes. Mahomes is competing against one name now, Tom Brady, who's got 7 championships. Patrick Mahomes is already considered one of the all-time greats. I would make the argument he's the greatest quarterback of all time right now. And I would choose him to be my quarterback over Brady because of his athleticism and the ability to improvise and the way he can move, and the arm strength and everything else. And I would encourage you to go back and pull it up on YouTube. Patrick Mahomes throw against the Atlanta Falcons in preseason. A few years ago, he threw it almost 80 yards in the air. It's one of the most incredible throws I've ever seen. He's just awesome. But he's competing to go after Tom Brady. And that's how he's going to be measured. Not against Marino, Elway, Manning, or anyone. It's Tom Brady and nobody else. So for him, see, if the Chiefs win this game, I know there's rumors out there about the future of Andy Reid and whether or not he may shut it down. If they win this year and they get over on Sunday, that'll be back-to-back championships. That puts you into elite status alone. But if they win and they go back-to-back, and you've got Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid's not going to walk away because they would have a chance to do something that has not been done. and that's a three-peat. And if you're going after that name in Tom Brady and you want to surpass him and be considered the best, you've got to come up with ways to be able to separate yourself from the rest of the pack. And if you can say that, hey, my team won 3 straight championships, and you put yourself in that elite category, that's something. So if they win it this year and they're even better next year and you three-peat, and that gets you to, 4 championships? And you've got a three-peat? All of a sudden, Mahomes, with plenty of time left in his career, has already got a three-peat, and then he's continuing to pursue that number of 7 and just continue to add to his legacy. So that's the way I'm looking at it. If they win, there's no way that Andy Reid's going to shut it down, and they're going to bring back the gang to make a run at 3 in a row. And that would be very compelling. That would be awesome. A three-peat. That doesn't happen often. MJ did it twice. We don't see it very often. It's tough to do. So that's what I'm looking at. Shanahan's trying to separate himself and show that he can win the big game and take that pressure off of him. And then for the Chiefs, they're chasing after Tom Brady. And Patrick Mahomes, with a win, would put himself in a position to go after the three-peat, which would be awesome. Very compelling. All right, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. This game will be the Minnesota game on the 13th. I think they have back-to-back games on the 13th and 15th against the Timberwolves. This is for February 13th. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday is powered by Lazy Boy. Get game ready with Lazy Boy. And a big thanks to the Portland Trailblazers. For all of your ticket needs, just go to trailblazers.com. And you can buy single game tickets. They got information on their game packs. Everything you need is right there at trailblazers.com. Okay. Let's take caller number 7. We'll honor John Elway right now. We're getting close to Super Bowl. 503-248-0620. Caller 7 right now gets a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Timberwolves at Moda Center. Fire away. It's your show. You call and get the tickets. 503-248-0620. Caller 7 gets a pair of tickets. Boom. That's how easy it's done. And that was quick, too. Speed dial, baby. The phone lines went. I love that. Hey, what's your best Kermit the Frog impression? Come on, Pat. Easy, Pat. I mean, you're already great. Don't be surprised when people want to know why you sound like that. It's not normal. But he is great. And I hate to admit it. All right, Joe DeLeon's going to talk Super Bowl next, and we'll get his take on the Senior Bowl. Some of the players that caught his eye coming out of the Senior Bowl. Who's going to win the big game on Sunday? And what about this talk about Drake May slipping in the draft? Is that true? Joe DeLeon's coming up next. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. Join us on Friday, February 9th, this coming Friday over at the Jackson's Food Mart, corner I-5 and 217 off Bangy Road. Chilling for a cause to benefit ALS Northwest. You can stop by and enter to win Trailblazer tickets. Dwight and I are going to be broadcasting live from the 37-degree frosty cooler for 3 hours. And you can check out our auction page right now. Go to ripcityradio.com. Click on the Chillin' for a Cause icon. You'll find the link for the auction page. You can bid on some sweet Trailblazer items right now. All proceeds benefit ALS Northwest. All right, our next guest is a college football and NFL draft analyst for the Believe Podcast Network and the First Team Pod. You can follow him on X at Joe DeLeon, and he's back on the Rip City Drive. Joe, it's so great to talk football with you. And, I've been looking at the Chiefs and the way they played over the last 3 games, and they've got a good defense. They've got Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the game. Why are they underdogs on Sunday? What's up with that?
I almost feel like they're underdogs because of this just national love for the 49ers. I don't know what it is. I'm in the same boat as you. It feels like we should be supporting the team that has accomplished this already, the team that's already won in the Super Bowl, and also the team that more handedly won in the championship round. So I'm definitely as surprised as you are that we're in this position right now where the 49ers are potentially favored. My pick is, and I am sure that there's going to be a lot of talk about this, that I think the Chiefs are going to end up winning this game again for that main point. The way that they played against Baltimore was far more convincing than what required a comeback for the 49ers.
Right now, Joe, Patrick Mahomes feels to me like a golfer on a tight course, pulling out the 3-wood or the driving iron, understanding the limitations of the offense, but he's being smart with the ball and leaning on the defense. What have you seen in him since the playoffs kicked off?
Yeah, I think that what we've never really been fully exposed to with him is that, like you're talking about, he's being a little bit more strategic. He's being a little bit more reserved, and he was forced to this year. He didn't have Tyreek Hill, who he could just hit over the top and take shots and, basically say, hey, screw it, Tyreek Hill's down there somewhere. And Travis Kelce's not that same player that he once was in terms of being able to threaten defenses vertically. He's now far more dink and dunk than he's ever been. So as you're talking about here, because the receivers aren't as good, he does need to be a little bit more conservative with his decision-making. And I think that's what makes the Chiefs the most dangerous they've ever been. Sure, it is impossible to defend his deep ball and the way that he's able to stretch the field, but him being more calm and collected has seemingly proved to us that when things hit the fan and things aren't working well, he's able to remain composed and he's able to find ways to move that offense down the field. And most importantly, they can rely on their defense, which they seemingly have not always had.
Don't you love watching Pacheco run the football? There's a certain hunger or, he's bitter when he runs the ball. He's a madman. I love watching him play.
Yeah, that's one of the more entertaining parts about this offense is watching Pacheco play is that he's just so aggressive. He's got this, stomping-like approach to the way that he runs. And I remember him coming out of Rutgers just thinking, hey, this is a guy that could be a nice secondary option, could be a guy who works his way into a rotation, especially when he ended up going to the Chiefs. It felt like he was going to be second fiddle to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and it ended up being the opposite. He ends up being that primary go-to option, the strong receiver, and I think that's one of the big reasons why, he's not Christian McCaffrey, but he still makes things super, super dangerous for this Chiefs offense.
What player do you think Steve Spagnuolo is most concerned about right now heading into the game Sunday?
It has to be Christian McCaffrey, and we've seen how Christian McCaffrey has really opened up the game for any week for the 49ers. And the biggest thing is the fact that every single time it feels like the 49ers have been stalled is when opponents have found a way to at least keep him in check, to not allow him to have those huge home run plays where he has the long rushing touchdowns or these big chunk receptions that he'll get in games. The fact that some of these defenses we've seen this year have been able to, keep him within his reins is what Spagnuolo has to be thinking to himself. If we can alleviate some of the pressure he brings to the table and put this all on the shoulders of Brock Purdy, we have a really good chance of beating this team. And it's very similar in a way to what they did the last game against the Baltimore Ravens when they faced Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's tremendously talented, but when they said, you got to beat us as a passer, we're not going to allow you to run all over us the way that you do, and that worked very effectively for them. So I think that McCaffrey just has to be that main primary focus for the Chiefs in this game.
We're talking with Joe DeLeon from the Believe Podcast Network and the First Team Pod here on the Rip City Drive. I want to boil this down into its simplest form based on what I hear from listeners or friends or, heck, even my dad. They always say, why is Travis Kelce so open all the time? It doesn't seem like anyone's defending him. I think 11 targets and 11 receptions against Baltimore. So I'll ask you, how does he always appear to be open, and what would be your game plan to slow him down, knowing that Mahomes is going to look to him first?
The really interesting thing about Kelce is following the way that his his career trajectory has gone, where a lot of times these vertical threat, base-eating tight ends, the way that he was early on in his career, these guys tend to disappear really quickly. But the thing with Travis Kelce is that when he's consistently catching the football and he's not having drops like we've seen at some points this year, he's turned into this dump-off option for Patrick Mahomes. And I think that goes in line with that first question you asked me, where he is constantly that dink and dunk option that's near the sticks, that when everyone else is locked up is seemingly squeaking by. And I think the biggest part is the savviness and the understanding and the awareness for a veteran player amongst a very young receiver group to know this is how I can set up the offense and set up this play to get us the first down. He knows situation. He knows what to do on various plays in order to help the offense move forward. And you need a presence like that. I think that's why he has gone from being this up-the-seam type of a guy into, catch the ball after 5 yards and run for a couple extra to pick up the first down.
Yeah, it's really impressive and fun to watch. I'll ask you this because you understand how this stuff works. You look at the 49ers defensive front, big names and big money invested in that group, but over the last several weeks, they've been really not productive. What's going on there? Why can't they get more production out of the front seven that's been underwhelming, especially in the playoffs?
Yeah, I feel as though one of the bigger issues that's coming from that is a lack of aggressiveness. And that comes with play calling. That comes with the approach with how you're going to attack opposing quarterbacks on a week-to-week basis. And there should be a lot more production coming from that unit. And I think it all just comes down to not enabling and setting those guys up to be the weapons and the threats that they truly can be.
All right, I'll get your Super Bowl prediction in just a moment, but your coverage of the Senior Bowl, the draft, is really tremendous, and your understanding of the college game. I got a couple of questions for you there. Chip Kelly has been rumored possibly jumping to the NFL for a coordinator job. Ryan Grubb has been rumored to look at the NFL. The changing landscape of college football, Joe, with the NIL and the transfer portal changing the way coaches look at jobs when comparing college and the NFL. I mean, what's going on here? Why do you think these guys are considering those type of jobs based on the positions they're in?
Well, I had a conversation with a coach the other day on the phone, and we were talking about how the game feels a lot more transactional. And I think that a lot of times in the past, in the history of the game, a lot of these coaches were developing relationships with players, and they were invested in the project of helping guys grow as young men and become talented football players, become strong young men in the community, in the classroom, and all that stuff. And now it's, as I said, very transactional. There's so much that goes into recruiting these days where it's not so much pitching to a kid and pitching to a family, hey, I'm going to help your son go to the NFL, or I'm going to help him graduate and get a degree. And instead it's, okay, how much money are you offering me? How much money is the NIL collective going to give me? And I think, as I've spoken to, even the guy that I spoke to was a lower-level coach, an FCS coach, who was burnt out. It feels like we're kind of getting to this point where every single level, so many of these coaches are just saying, I can't do this. This is not the game that I invested in. But the flip side of that, though, that gets really interesting is that we're seeing a guy like Steve Belichick, who's taking over this defensive coordinator role for Washington, and the whole coaching staff that's coming from Arizona with Jed Fish is mostly pro guys. Jed Fish was the quarterback's coach with the Patriots. I actually think that we're almost having a swap here, that we're going to see a lot more of this happening, where there's going to be an incentive to grab position coaches from the NFL and turn them into coordinators, like with Belichick, because those guys understand how to manage personalities. They know how to work in a situation where theoretically a kid could be making more than them. They understand how to keep guys in check despite all of the egos that might come into play. So I think that there is a path here where we could have some exchange, if you will, between the two levels of football as we see it today.
I think that's a great word in the way you put it, Joe, that the college game has become very transactional. We're talking with Joe DeLeon here on the Rip City Drive. All right, at the Senior Bowl, you had quarterbacks Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix, Joe Milton, Michael Pratt, Carter Bradley. Who jumped out at you? Who made a name for themselves and improved their stock?
There were two quarterbacks that I think did the best. One was Michael Pratt from Tulane, who you just mentioned there, who I think was the most steady during this week. He kind of gives me the same type of vibe that we had with Derek Carr when he was coming out, where no one's going to really make the argument that he belongs in the first round and could get drafted pretty early on day 2 for a team that wants to have a really solidified backup that they can trust, that whenever anything goes wrong, that they can call on and that is going to keep the offense on schedule. And why I compare him to Derek Carr is that Derek Carr got onto the field so early for the Raiders and was just a really strong player, not to the level where he ever really entered that MVP discussion, maybe for a couple of weeks every so often, but he was just such a strong player for the Raiders that I think that if Michael Pratt got onto the field and was asked to play maybe in the second or third year of his career, he could have that level of impact. But Michael Penix, if we're discussing these top quarterbacks, without a doubt was the best amongst the group. I think that Bo Nix was fine and then finished the week strong. But Michael Penix, despite maybe not being the most consistent amongst that top crop of guys, we were able to witness and see the arm talent. We were able to see him make those really difficult, pretty throws that he can make towards the sideline that he was so good at doing at Washington, but he still struggled to throw the ball to the middle of the field, which is one of his biggest weaknesses. But if we're just comparing who's got the best arm and uses it the most effectively, Michael Penix was definitely the best one in Mobile.
All right, what is up with this idea that Drake may slide in the first round? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's all smokescreen. I remember back with the Will Levis. Yeah, I remember back with the Will Levis stuff last year, and that happened very late in the process. If anything, around this time last year, a lot of people were pumping up Levis to go really early. There was that capability and that possibility that he ended up being the first quarterback taken, and then we saw how the process played out. It feels like, and I'm not discrediting Lance Zierlein, who's the one who's been pushing this, but as somebody who has communication with agents and talks to them, there is narratives that are pushed, and also for team personnel that are talking to these media members, that there is a hope that they could get the market to cool on a player. And now is the time for the market, theoretically, for Drake May to cool a little bit for a team that's picking in that 7 to 11 range. Maybe that's the Raiders, maybe it's the Broncos, one of those teams that's hoping maybe we can just wait and watch him slide, and then we can trade up and go get him. Now's the perfect time to start planning that stuff, and I think that this is the perfect definition of a smokescreen, because the guy is just so talented. He's a playmaker. He's a cerebral player. Didn't have the best film this year, but I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't have a Justin Herbert or C.J. Stroud type of a start to his NFL career.
I think the most important point is the one you made. Did his teammates show up to his birthday party?
Right. I immediately thought of that with Bo Callahan. It's like, are we really doing this? Not really much validation with this stuff. I mean, the kid's a fantastic player with not a lot of receivers around him. And the craziest part, too, with the Senior Bowl, we saw Tez Walker struggle. Tez Walker, who was his top receiver, did not play well at all at the Senior Bowl. And it kind of makes you wonder, who was the one who was making the other one look better? And I really think that Drake May is just going to be a great pro, and we're going to be shaking our heads and laughing at this in a few years.
Okay, good. I figured that was the case. I'm glad you set us straight on that one. The Broncos in an interesting spot where they need a quarterback, but they don't have a lot of picks in the upcoming draft, and they have a lot of holes. Do you think Sean Payton would consider taking Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy at number 12, or would it be smart for them to go elsewhere based on need and look to take a quarterback later in the draft?
I think that depending on how they approach free agency is going to obviously impact this. But if I were to pick amongst these quarterbacks, Bo Nix makes the most sense. It feels like he could fit the scheme and the style and what we kind of saw from Drew Brees in his time when he was the quarterback under Peyton, where it's quick delivery, dink and dunk, and that's what Bo Nix did really, really well at Oregon. I also think that him being a more veteran player means his floor is going to be higher, and he's going to be able to step in and play a lot sooner. Maybe doesn't ever really ascend to that Pro Bowl caliber level, but can be good enough to take this veteran roster, not so much veteran, but strong roster, to be in a position to win early. I don't think that they're the type of team that would do well if they drafted J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy is a quarterback kind of similar to Jordan Love, who needed to sit for a couple of years. There are tools there, and there's a lot of traits to work with, but the guy is just not ready to start in the NFL. And we saw that when he's called upon and he's asked to be the one who takes over games, he doesn't exactly do it. He's not there yet. The instincts aren't there. The decision-making's not there. I really wish he went back to school so we wouldn't have to do this whole charade. It feels like Daniel Jones. It feels like Zach Wilson. And I'm just hoping that a team doesn't take him and rush him onto the field and him end up playing really poorly and gets pushed out within a couple of years.
That's a great point. Hey, Joe, with the draft this year, I'm wondering how deep or how would you classify this draft? Because we have so many players who, with the COVID eligibility, stayed another year, or NIL opportunities stayed another year. How deep is the draft going to be because of that this year?
Yeah, this year's draft, it's really strange, and I talk about this a ton on the first team over the past couple of weeks, where this might be one of the most talented drafts in a very long time for the top, 120 picks, top 100 picks. There are a tremendous amount of corners, receivers, offensive tackles that are going to be really impactful players in the NFL, and we're going to be talking about second-rounders at some of those positions that are really good football players in the NFL this year. But as you just mentioned, any guy and anyone that has representation or is smart enough to assess situations that would have gone on day 3 and not guaranteed a starting job, and for them to go back and get their degrees and to make money doing it, now's the time to do it. So the depth in this class, it's horrible. It's absolutely terrible. There's some of these position groups where I look at it like tight end and linebacker, and I'm like, who the heck is going to go on day 3? There's going to be, and I've even heard this indirectly from the NFL level, where they're confused on where they're going to go on day 3. There's a lot of guys that are priority free agents that they're going to just end up taking, or they're going to try and trade out of those picks. So the depth is terrible, but the talent is phenomenal at the top.
Fascinating. All right, Super Bowl 58 Sunday. We know San Francisco's favored by 2. We've already talked about this, where on paper it's like Mahomes, Andy Reid, the best defense. It's pretty simple for me. I'll take the Chiefs. How do you see this game playing out? How do you think it's going to go down?
Yeah, I really think that, one, as I mentioned earlier, the way that Spagnuolo called that defense against Lamar just reminds me of how brilliant of a defensive coordinator he is. And I think that he's going to find ways to force Brock Purdy to beat them, and that is going to set this team up to have a really successful defensive day. I think the way that they created easy pressure up the middle, and the 49ers guards, their interior offensive line is one of the weaker parts of this roster that's not really talked about very much. I think that they're going to get a ton of interior pressure with Chris Jones and everybody, and get in his face and disrupt him being able to throw from a consistent platform. But the biggest thing for me is that, we get to the Super Bowl, the teams that won the most handedly and the most confidently need to be the ones that we pay attention to in these games. And the Chiefs did that. And I know that the Ravens kind of tried to find a way to fight back into that game, but they had control over the Ravens for all 4 quarters. I can't say that's the same for the 49ers. If it wasn't for a number of horrible coaching decisions, and I love Dan Campbell, but just brutal decision-making and taking your foot off the gas, it would have been a completely different story. We'd be talking about the Lions right now. So I have to – they lucked their way into where they are right now. I have to go with the Chiefs in this one.
Yeah, I feel like the comeback by the 49ers was impressive, but it doesn't happen if it doesn't start with Dan Campbell's decision-making, right?
That's where I stand. I have to pay attention to if that's a different, more experienced coach and they win that football game, the 49ers, none of this, we wouldn't be talking about any of this if that had gone the way that I think everyone would have expected.
Hey, with the coaches, look, you're younger than I am, Joe, and I know that you embrace analytics and the numbers. You don't run from that. And I know you talk to coaches. What has been your consensus after having some time to digest that game on analytics and decision-making on 4th downs when it comes to those type of spots?
Yeah, it gets really tricky because I know that Badgley was one of those kickers that doesn't typically do well in that range.
Yeah, dicey. Yeah.
But at the same time, you just got to take the points. I understand it's the wrong type of aggressiveness that they were showing. the aggressiveness that they should have had is that the second that they got the ball in the second half is that they should have taken shots. They should have immediately jumped down their throat. But instead, it's let's go for it on fourth down, and you got to at least take the chance. And it sounds a little bit strange to say this, but put the pressure on the guy that's job is to kick the football. Don't put it on your offense in a situation where the analytics might say go, but the likelihood of getting that first down, it's not very strong.
Yeah, I wonder if he had Justin Tucker as his kicker, do you think he kicks the field goal, or is it because it's Dan Campbell he's going for it?
Yeah, well, that's a very good point, but I would think that if he had a more consistent kicker from
he's
that
going
range,
for the field goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
Oh, it would have driven Dan Campbell crazy if you put Badgley out there and he misses a field goal. He's like, "Great, I wanted to go for it anyways. You missed a kick." It would have driven him mad.
Right. Well, that's my whole point is that the narrative would have flipped. Everyone would have been pulling the the same thing that they said about Tyler Bass, where it's like, oh my God, this guy failed to step up in the situation where we needed him to. We would have only been talking about the kicker, but instead we're talking about Dan Campbell. Which I guess I got to give Campbell some credit there for him stepping up and putting the onus on himself instead of setting up his kicker for failure if he didn't think he was going to be the one who could get the job done.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm convinced. No one can convince me differently. Like, if they go up by 3 scores at that point in the game midway through the third, they're not going to lose the game. I truly believe that. That's all. It's brutal.
Yeah, they would have made things impossible. They would have needed 3 scores to get back into the game. So I completely agree with you that they should have kicked the field goal.
All right, Joe DeLeon is with us. You got to check him out. He's with the Believe Podcast Network, also the First Team Pod, and you can check him on X at Joe DeLeon. And I encourage you to check him out because his coverage and understanding of football and the draft and college football and everything that's going on, he's absolutely one of the best. Joe, really appreciate the time. You're an OG, and I'll bother you around draft time, but thank you so much, buddy. That was awesome.
Of course. Thanks as always for having me.
There you go, Joe DeLeon. Woo! All right. We're getting closer to kickoff. Is this the Cars? Down, down. I know what this song's about. This song brings up an image that, well, you know what image I'm talking about. Everyone knows what image I'm talking about.
Best times at Richmond High.
Yep. All right, I'm going to ask you again. You're a 49er fan. You love the 49ers. Are you feeling better today or worse about the game coming up on Sunday?
Well, I haven't heard any negative headlines out of the Chiefs. Tough opponent. I was hoping to hear some by now. I'm not 100% confident. Wouldn't put money down, but, it's going to feel so good if they can get it done.
30 years has been a long time for you as a fan.
Yeah, last one was against the Chargers. What have the Chargers done in these 30 years?
Nothing. Zilch, nada.
Yeah, at least the Niners lost a couple Super Bowls and a bunch of playoff games.
All right.
What have the Chargers done in the last 30 years?
Nothing. They're one of those franchises that hasn't done much of anything lately. Underachieved, really.
They moved.
They did. They got it right, though. They got the head coach right. We'll see if Jim Harbaugh can turn the tide for them. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Big thanks to Joe DeLeon. That was terrific. Love his information. You got the Rip City Drive. I think that's G.E. Smith, who's on the guitar solo. Family Man, Hall & Oates. He's one of my favorite interviews of all time. G.E. Smith, who was also a part of the band on SNL. I'm a family man. Also, I would recommend if you're down with music, go check out the We Are the World documentary on Netflix. Have you seen that one yet, Shaka?
Yes. Lionel Richie had one heck of a night the night that song was recorded. He hosted an awards show and then took lead in one of the biggest singles of the 80s.
That is a fascinating video. My favorite part was Kim Carnes, Cyndi Lauper, and Huey Lewis all trying to get on the same page to nail their part. Who was the chick that they wanted there only because of Prince?
Oh, Sheila E.
Yeah. They used her to try and get Prince there.
It almost worked.
I was talking with the principal, Curtis Long, about that video. He loved it when Ray Charles needed to use the restroom, and Stevie Wonder's like, I'll show you where it's at.
I've seen a performance where Stevie Wonder, I saw a behind-the-scene deal. He performed at like a MTV Music Awards, and then after he was done performing, no one escorted him off the stage.
Yeah.
I think Will Smith got out of the crowd and helped out.
I think Smokey Robinson's jealous of Stevie because he's so good. He can just do things that other people who can see can't do. That's how talented he is. But that is a fascinating video. The other part, too. So Michael Jackson was there. Quincy Jones was involved. So that was like your brain trust behind it, right? Quincy, Lionel, and Michael.
Yeah. They wanted help with Stevie Wonder. He just helped perform.
I was surprised that they let John Oates go. I guess you had to because Daryl Hall was there. I think it was Diana Ross that was complimenting Daryl Hall on his voice. And, oh, I love your music. Like, that probably made him feel pretty good.
Yeah, and he probably got his part done in one take.
Yeah, certain guys needed more than just one take. The funny thing is about Cyndi Lauper, like, she kept jingling and making noise, and it's because she had too much jewelry on. So she had to shed some earrings and necklaces so it wouldn't be picked up on the mic.
It's like when Dwight James wears that jacket to work, and I think there's something wrong with his microphone.
Yeah, what is that? Like, is it the vest or is it like some type of jumpsuit he's wearing? But it goes, whoosh, it makes the swoosh sound.
It's the material it's made out of, and his microphone's up against it, and that's why it gets picked up, the noise that he makes.
It drives me crazy. And he hates it when we remind him of that, but it's like, dude, that's totally being picked up by the mic.
Well, he looks good in that jacket, and we're on YouTube now.
No, it's a pimp jacket. Yeah, it's a pimp jacket. Someone was asking me the other day, like, oh, yeah, do you guys need some, like, Rip City gear that you could wear, like, motor at the games or whatever? And I'm like, I mean, I'll take it, but I can guarantee you the Godfather's not wearing a station polo to the game. Old school news writer. He always dresses up.
Well, he'll tattoo Rip City Radio to his body.
I have never asked him, but my guess is Godfather does not have a tattoo. That's my rough guess.
Oh, you're wrong. He's got one.
He does?
Yeah.
What is it?
One of the radio stations he worked at years ago. He put the logo on his arm.
What is it, K-Pam?
Yeah.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did.
Are you pulling my leg?
No. Save that for Friday.
Okay,
Maybe
I'll
we can get a
ask him.
revealing on Friday with all the
In the
fans
cooler?
there. Yeah. Yeah, he gets to show off his tattoo in the cooler.
But why did he do that? Did he lose a bet or did he make a promise or what?
Either
You're lying to me.
No, I'm not.
Where's it at?
His arm. The beefy part of his arm.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I got to see that. I did not know that. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, this is good.
Well, we have to wait till Friday when he's back
All
to show
right.
it off.
So is it like the K-Pam logo? Or is it just say K-Pam?
Yeah,
It's
the radio
logo?
station logo.
That's good, man. Do you have any tats?
No.
I don't either.
No tats or piercings.
How did the colonoscopy go?
It went great, other than the long drive. It was a tough drive home afterwards. Barely made it.
That's a tough drive home. All right. Big thanks to Brooke Olzendam for joining the show, Joe DeLeon, and Aaron Fentress. I'll be back tomorrow at 3. Justin Myers has got Rip City Mornings coming at you at 6. Enjoy your night. We'll talk to you tomorrow, my friends.